Hello everybody, this is English for You and a very warm welcome to the program. In the studio I'll have my fazekas guests, students. Kata, how are you doing?
Fine, thanks.
Szabolcs, how's it hanging?
Everything's well.
Great. What's up, Victoria?
It's all right.
How are you doing?
Everything's great.
Mati, would you give me a nice wave?
Hi, Victor.
How are you?
Nice.
Fine. Everything's fine.
Fine.
Great.
Yeah.
And today's special guest is Mr. Anthony Gall, and his job is to design buildings. So he's an... Everybody please. Architect.
Architect.
He's an architect. Right. And also, I'm going to show you this word card, and I would like you to say this. Would you?
Good day, everyone.
Good day. Everybody please.
Good day.
Say it again.
Good day.
Everybody please.
Good day.
Where do you think it comes from?
Maybe it's some Indian word.
Good day. Good day.
Good
Is
day.
it still common to greet each other this
Good day,
way?
mate. Yeah, all the time.
All the time. This is a very heavy accent from Australia. Australia. The first guest I've been here from Australia. Right. What kind of pictures do you have in mind in connection with Australia? Anything that comes to your mind, so it's a sort of stream of consciousness. Kata.
Kangaroos.
Good. Mati.
The opening ceremony of Sydney 2000.
Excellent. Szabolcs.
Boomerang.
Boomerang. Victoria.
Yeah. Same.
The same. Victor.
Maybe koalas.
Koalas. See, this is the stereotypical pictures people have. I've got a picture of Australia, and luckily I can show it to you. This is one of my mental pictures, so please, would you roll the tape, and your job is, where do you think we are? Listen to this. Right, so where are we? Victor,
We are in Sydney
how do you know?
because of the opera house.
Right, you're absolutely right, and it's a wonderful skyscrapers in the background. Anthony, do you have this picture of Australia as a childhood picture?
The picture of Sydney.
Yeah.
Sydney was a long way away from where I was born, and
Right.
I
So,
probably only saw it in similar circumstances on the television for probably 12 years.
right, so this is not your childhood image of Australia.
No, not at
Would
all.
you please come to the map? And there's going to be a map here, and I'm going to say a couple of names, and I would like you to show these things on the projector. Obviously, this is a map of Australia, right? First of all, would you show Sydney, please?
Sydney is down here.
All right.
On the
Now I'm going
eastern
to
side.
say the name of your hometown, Mackay.
Mackay, if we're lucky enough to actually have it on the map, is around about here.
Right. And this is the capital of... no, this is not the capital. This
It's
is
not
a
the
small
capital,
town. This is in Queensland?
In Queensland, yes.
Would you show Queensland, please?
Queensland, that's a little bit easier, is basically this part of Australia, which you can see there. So it's the part, if I look from that side of the line.
Brisbane.
Brisbane is the capital, yes.
Would you show it, please?
And the capital of Brisbane, like most things, is down in the corner of the state here.
Right. Thank you very much. Would you sit down, please? And what did you do in Brisbane?
In Brisbane, I finished my last year at school, and then I started university.
Right. Okay, now you're going to have a picture, a photograph, and I would like you to talk about this photograph. Why did you choose this photograph right here?
I chose this photograph because it's something I'd like to be doing very soon, but this year probably won't be. That will be having Christmas at home in Australia with my family. And this is a picture of Christmas dinner in my family.
And in the
my parents'
background you can see...
in the backyard with the palm trees.
So the climate was... what kind of climate did you
Probably
have?
about 35 degrees.
Ooh, it's pretty hot,
And
isn't
95% humidity.
it? Would you close your eyes, please? Because I'm going to give you something, and you're allowed to touch it. You are allowed to smell this thing. Smell it. You are allowed to knock on this. What is this?
It's either a mango or an avocado.
Would you open your eyes, please? What is it?
It's a mango.
It's a mango. Did you have a mango tree in the garden?
We were one of the few people in the town where I grew up who didn't have, because you didn't need one because everyone else had one. And they always remind me of the flying foxes, which used to come every night in hordes and...
Would you say it again?
Flying foxes.
Flying foxes.
They look like a bat, but they're actually a marsupial.
Right. And
I don't eat these.
yeah, maybe I'm disadvantaged, but I've never ever eaten a mango. Put up your hand if you've ever eaten a mango. I don't even know how to start eating it. So I thought it might be a good idea.
Oh, excellent.
To give you this knife and this one.
Is it a sharp one?
I hope so. And this is a napkin. And is it ripe?
One side's a little bit more ripe, but no, it's got a chance of being a bit ripe on that side.
So what can you do with the mango? You peel it? Would you?
Well, first of all,
right. And the inside, does it have anything inside?
it has a big stone inside it. It's actually how you eat it.
So you have a stone right here.
There's a big stone in it.
Uh-huh. Right. So this side is ripe.
Seems to be a little bit more ripe,
Uh-huh. Okay. We're going to taste it pretty soon.
if I
Right.
remember rightly.
Uh-huh. Oh, it's very nice. Excellent.
When it's a little bit more ripe, then it
Yeah.
does it without breaking.
Right. Excellent. Thank you very much. So this is the first time I've seen a mango inside.
But if you want, we could search for the stone as well.
Right. We're going to have a couple of words here, and they are Australian English words. And the first one is swagman. What's a swagman in English or American English?
A swagman is someone who has set off in search of work in the country, and they've taken their possessions on their back in a swag, which is generally a blanket and a couple of other things, so that they've got something to eat and something to lie on.
Right. Billabong.
Billabong is a cut-off. It's a pond or a pool which has been cut off from a river.
Excellent. Billy. Does it have the same meaning in Hungarian and English?
A little bit different. You could probably use the Australian version in the Hungarian sense, but we use it. It's a tin which we use to put above the fire to boil water in.
We have jumbuck.
Jumbuck is a sheep.
Okay, and the last word is tucker bag. Tucker bag.
Tucker bag is generally a big sack, and you carry your food in it, your bread, your meat, and things like that when you're a swagman.
Right. So we're going to have the English words next to the Australian version, and I believe I'm going to sing a song, and I hope you're going to recognize this song. Once a jolly swagman camped by a billabong, down by the sea by the coolibah tree, and he sang as he watched and waited till his billy boiled. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me, waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. And he sang as he watched and waited till his billy boiled. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Down came a jumbuck to drink beside the billabong. Up jumped the swagman and grabbed him with glee. And he sang as he stowed that jumbuck in his tucker bag. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. And he sang as he watched and waited till his billy boiled. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. It's not a very happy song, is it?
It's fairly realist for a lot of Australia's past, and it has its little bit of hardness in it, yes.
Right. What are the two main characters in the song? We have the swagman,
Yes.
And we have the farmer, right?
You had the farmer and also the policeman.
Right. And is this the national anthem of Australia?
Not officially, no.
Right, okay. Now, this question, I mean, you lived in Australia with all those mangoes and the ocean. What good winds brought you here in Hungary?
Basically, chance, I suppose. I decided I'd like to spend some time in Europe because many people in Australia sometime in the past came from Europe. A lot of either in the 19th or in the 20th century. And so when we're sitting down having our Christmas in summer and you're seeing all these pictures of the snow coming down and things like that, you're sort of always aware that there's this other part of the world that also you belong to in a little way. So I set off from Australia when I was 21 to England, and I'd also applied for a scholarship, and that scholarship was to Hungary, and totally by chance because it was advertised just at the time when I was looking for somewhere to apply to. And I got this scholarship, so after London I came to Hungary.
Excellent. Now, as you have already learned, Anthony is an architect, and I'm going to show you a couple of very interesting pictures of buildings designed by a Hungarian architect. I wonder if you can come up with the name of this architect, more importantly the style, and possibly the time of these buildings. So would you roll the tape, please? Right, so this building is the last, is very characteristic. Victoria, do you have any idea?
It could be, I have a person in mind, he's called Makovec Imre.
Right.
I don't know if it's right, but it could be, it has some features or characteristics.
Yes, Victor, please.
I have no idea. Maybe it was built in the 19th century or
Right. Mati, at the
I
back.
think all of them are in the 20th century, from the 20th century.
Uh-huh.
But the style is the same, like the 19th and 18th century.
Right.
But they built in the 20th,
Right.
I think.
Do you have any other ideas? Kotano, Szabolcs?
Maybe it reminds me of Transylvania or some
Right,
kind of
very
this
good idea.
atmosphere.
Excellent idea. Great. Now we're going to have the picture of an architect, a very famous architect, and you can see the name, Kós Károly. And I believe, Anthony, you wrote your dissertation on Kós Károly,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Remember the moment when you first saw a building designed by Kós Károly? Did you feel anything?
There are three which I can't divide in time. One is when I went on my honeymoon to Transylvania in 1990. One is when I was taken through the Lekada estate in the outskirts of Budapest. And another was, I think, going to Zebegén.
Right, but you liked the buildings, right?
I like these because they resemble things which I'm familiar with, which they showed us at university by other architects in other parts of the world.
Right. I asked my students to read a little about John Ruskin, and we're going to come back to Kós Károly in just a while. Who, yes, Kata, would you?
Oh, yes. He was mainly a critic, and he lived in the Victorian age, I think from 1890 to 1900. And he didn't like the art of his own age, and he stoutly defended the pre-Raphaelite art, and he had a conception that good art is like a storehouse of nature, and pre-Raphaelite artists loved really the art before Raphael, because they thought that nature is very important, and they didn't like those very baroque-like buildings.
Thank you very much. And the other very famous artist is, I think yours, Victoria, William Morris, right?
Yeah, William Morris.
We're going to see a beautiful wallpaper here by Morris.
He had a lot in common with Cotti's artists because he didn't like the art of his own age, so that he became leader of the arts and crafts movement, which was aimed to bring art into crafts, so that simple chairs, like he designed chairs, and they would become a bit more artistic. And he wanted to raise standards, and he was also a poet and a bookbinder and a very, very universal man.
Right. Did they have a great influence on Kós Károly, Anthony?
An extremely great influence. Kós basically based his actions and his movements, and some of the people around Kós, so at that period of Hungary, their actions were based basically on the example set by people like Ruskin, and particularly Morris, who in practice was doing what Ruskin was talking about in words only.
Combining fine arts and applied arts?
Making art for everyone.
Right.
Making it more democratic and making everyday life more beautiful was, I think, their basic aim.
Thank you very much. We're going to see a building here. This was designed by Kós Károly, and also we're going to see another building, and this is going to be your task now, to try and find out where we are. It's going to be a very famous building, and I'm absolutely sure that you've been there a couple of times. And it's a beautiful place in Budapest, one of the nicest places in Budapest, actually. And I wonder if you can find out this one, and we're going to see it. Would you roll the tape? Right. Would you put up your hand if you know where we are? Mochi.
We are in the zoo.
We are in the zoo. And I'm going to show you the name of a very famous architect. We've been talking about Kós Károly, but I think here I must mention the name of another very famous person like this. Anthony, over to you. Do you know this person?
Not personally, but...
All right.
Zumetsky was a colleague of Kós's from university. They studied at the university together, and they started off, as I said, not only Kós, but people at that time were doing this type of thing, and Zumetsky was the other person who was most close to Kós in doing this type of architecture, and they worked together a lot, and Zumetsky was the godfather of Kós's first son also, and so they were very close, and they had their joint office, and they designed the zoo together.
Right. In one of your essays written on the Budapest Zoo, I read this sentence. Would you be so kind as to read it out?
An architecture human in scale, created in harmony with the environment, and developing pre-existent models from vernacular culture.
Right. So it's a little bit complicated, but there are 3 statements in it. Would you please talk about the first statement, which means that human in space?
Being human in scale means that the building isn't something huge and enormous which overpowers you, but it's something that you can feel familiar with as you're moving around it or into it. It means that it has little details that are close by that you feel make the building familiar. Often it's not large expanses of empty space, but there are always details, little windows, the roof comes down close to the ground.
Right. The next statement is created in harmony with the environment. It's pretty self-explanatory?
I'd like to think so, but it doesn't always appear when you look at architects' work, but it is self-explanatory.
Right. And what is this vernacular architecture, vernacular culture? What does that mean?
Vernacular culture really means the type of culture where things aren't influenced by, for example, architects from outside. So in the past it might have meant in the villages where people build their houses according to their needs, and there's a sort of a harmony between needs and the forms of the architecture. It's not.
Thank you very much. Kata, would you like to try and translate this sentence?
Egy szerkezet, ami nagyságban, tehát ami emberi nagyságú,
Léptékű.
emberi
Very
léptékű,
good.
a környezettel harmonizál, és pre-existent, az
Már meglévő.
és már meglévő modelleket fejleszt tovább, hát ilyen külvilág által nem befolyásolt kultúrában.
You agree? Yeah, good. Thank you very much. By the way, Anthony is the chief architect of the Budapest Zoo, which is fantastic. I mean, he's Australian, and he's the chief architect of the Budapest Zoo. I mean, how did it happen?
Like most things, it just happened.
What was your first job there?
The first job I had there was actually on this elephant house, which had already been designed. It was being restored at the time, but because I'd done work on Gauche and on that period, they said, we need someone who knows something about what this building would have looked like when it was new. And so they asked me to be their consultant.
Right. Would you roll this, and while it's going, would you like to talk about it? What did you do there?
So what we had to do is, this building had been painted over, almost destroyed. It had lots and lots of problems. People in the 1930s didn't like how it looked inside, so they painted it over. In the 1960s, they renovated it by knocking everything off the inside of it. In 1915, they knocked the tower down because they thought it was something which hurt the religious feelings of other nations. And so it had lots of problems, so that by 1996, the building was basically an absolute ruin. And then, of course, you've got elephants living in it, which are quite a tough and large animal. So our job was that someone had designed a lot of the things about how the building needs to be restored, but the interior of it, all the beautiful decoration which had disappeared, that hadn't been included in the design. And so my job was to try and discover these traces of these things which had disappeared and help in the restoration of those.
Thank you very much. And your first job was designing a parsonage. A parsonage is a place where a Christian priest lives, right? Am I right with this?
Calvinist.
Calvinist?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a parsonage. And you can see the design here. And I would like you to talk about, when you got this commission, when you got this job, what did you have in mind? What factors did you have to consider? And I would like you to come up with the key words. What goes on inside an architect's head?
I got this job because I was hitchhiking in an area of Transylvania looking for Korsch buildings. And I met the parson who said he's looking for someone to design him a parsonage in Korsch style, but Korsch didn't design one that's suitable for him. And it's this lovely village, very poor, very few people live in it, and this parsonage is right next door to an 800-year-old Calvinist church. So it's had lots and lots of things around it. So the task was to build something which suited the village's needs, fitted in with its environment, didn't cost a lot, and I think basically those were the...
Right, so what are the key words, Szabolcs?
Well, it suits needs, it fits in the environment, and it's cheap, relatively.
Right, so we're going to have these 5 words which we talked about this. Purpose, who's been using it or who's going to use this? Location, environment, beauty, and obviously cost. Right. Thank you very much for coming, and I've enjoyed this very much, and I've learned a lot about architecture, and also I think we should just try this mango. We just
Yes,
take
you can
one.
take it in your hands, yes.
Yeah. I'm going to take it in my hands and I'm going to test my students, so they are going to be the...
I'd be very interested.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we'll just try and taste it. See you next time. It's going to be, again, English for you, something very interesting. Bye for now. Taste it, will you?